Joining us now, Scott Lauber, who joins us from the Inquirer. A little 6 inning. It's like a Little League game today out down there. It's nobody in the stands and 6 innings. Felt like a Little League game. All right, let's get his insight now. Right here on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline is the Phillies. A little inter-squad game and some other stuff over the last couple of days. Scott, welcome back. What's happening, man?
Hey, Mike. How are you?
All is well. So first off, I got to ask you this. How eerie and odd is it to watch a pro baseball game with nobody in a stadium of that size?
Really, really weird. So let me tell you, 2 months ago, close to 2 months ago now, I called Tommy Hunter. He played, well, he didn't get into the game, but he was with the Orioles in 2015 when they had the game against the White Sox at an empty Camden Yards. The Freddie Gray protests were going on in Baltimore, if you remember that game.
Yep.
And I asked him about it, and he told me a story. He said, anyone who knows him, anyone who's ever talked to him or heard him talk knows he's kind of a loud guy and likes to joke around a lot and likes to really kind of ham it up with his teammates. And he said, like, in the first or second inning of that game, the bullpen phone rings, and it was the dugout. And they go, "Can you tell Hunter to quiet down? Because we could hear everything he's saying here in the dugout." And I kind of laughed, and I thought, haha, that's funny. And he said, "No, dude, I'm serious." Now, yesterday, fast forward to yesterday, I'm in the press box, which is where we're restricted to be. We can't really roam the ballpark. You've got to sort of watch from up there. The windows are open. I'm in the press box, and I can hear Andrew McCutchen out in left field. And I'm thinking, like, Hunter wasn't kidding. I mean, it is amazing how much you can hear in an empty ballpark when there's nobody there and players are talking. I wouldn't say that you could hear, somebody's conversation. If two guys are, standing on second base, not going to hear that, at least not where I'm sitting. But, for the most part, you can hear everything down there. So it is eerie, it is weird, and it is definitely something that we're going to have to get used to because it's here to stay for however long they play this year.
That's really interesting. And I was thinking, if the catcher is behind the plate and he's moving inside or outside and there's no fans, do you think that maybe the batter can hear something like that and maybe know where the pitch is going to be located?
Yeah, without a doubt. And I wouldn't even, I'm not down on the field, but I wouldn't even doubt that with no noise whatsoever, you might be able to hear some of what's being talked about in the other dugout. And for that reason, Joe Girardi said, Major League Baseball has talked about piping in noise. I don't know whether that's going to be music. I don't know whether that's going to be like some sort of artificial crowd noise, but that they've discussed piping in some kind of noise so that that there is a little bit of that could go on where you could have a conversation and not worry about, is the other team going to hear me? Or maybe the catcher doesn't, or the batter can't hear where the catcher is moving. Because there's no question without anybody in the stands, a lot of us, we've all been in ballparks during batting practice where there are no people in there, but there's music and there's life in the ballpark. And you've got,
you got workers, you got something going on.
Exactly. You've got stadium workers, you've got media people like me who are walking around and making noise. And it's not just complete and total silence. And that's what they're dealing with right now is just complete and total silence other than the noise that they're making themselves.
Yeah, I saw some of the videos of people that were posting, and I saw like a fly ball to right field, and all you see is an emptiness. And I'm thinking, man, first off, whoever shot the video, I thought it was maybe Jim Salisbury or something. I'm thinking, man, you're sitting there in this huge stadium, and it's completely empty. You almost wonder, and I guess they thought about this or whatever, but would have playing in their spring training sites have been a better feel and scenario for this thing?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe, but I don't know. I'm not an expert on knowing, what an empty 40,000 seat stadium sounds like versus an empty
right.
10,000 seat stadium. I think you're probably just talking about degrees of noise, and I think and we talked about this all along. I think kind of the point of this was that they wanted to make players feel as comfortable as possible. If you're going to have to quarantine in a bubble for, 2.5, 3 months, players are not going to go for that. And they might have had more guys opt out if that was the case. And look, ultimately in the end, if you were going to go to Arizona and Florida right now, you'd be in worse shape than you'd be in just about, all the other states where where teams are playing. Didn't seem like it would be that way back in April and May when cases were spiking in the Northeast here, like in cities like New York and Boston and right here in Philly. But now it's sort of other places are going through what we did then, and so that whole Arizona, Florida, Texas idea would not be something that could go right now. And so I don't know. I think it's just degrees though of weirdness and degrees of an unusual situation that's just going to have to. Everyone's just going to have to adapt to it as best they can.
All right, let's look at a couple of things that are playing out now. You got a chance to see Zach Wheeler for a little bit today, and he's another interesting story because obviously his wife is pregnant. He has said that he's going to miss a couple of starts no matter what. He had said he had thought about not even playing. I don't know where that stands, but give us a little update on how Wheeler looked and then where he is with playing right now.
Yeah, look, I think what we can equate this to is maybe that first, round of starts in spring training. I think they're a little more stretched out now than they were then, but you don't get a whole lot out of it until the last few starts. And, look, I think the important thing are that guys are building up their arms. You hear little things. It wasn't so much with Wheeler today because, look, Zach Wheeler is kind of Zach Wheeler. You sort of have these expectations for him and what kind of pitcher he's going to be or supposed to be. And, that he's in the rotation and, he's going to, assuming that he's with the team and that his wife is not in labor, he's probably going to make that second start on the 25th against the Marlins, and all of that. I think where it's really interesting to me is watching like Vince Velasquez pitch today. Mm-hmm. And, JT Realmuto was saying that he thought Velasquez during the quarantine sort of picked up maybe like a little cutter that he hadn't really seen from him before that he was throwing today. He's always had a curveball. He's got a changeup. If he's going to mix in a little cutter now, maybe that takes him to another level. I mean, we've been waiting for this forever and ever and ever, right? With Vince Velasquez, like, is he going to take that next step? Is he going to be less of a one-dimensional fastball? Here it is, try to hit it kind of pitcher. And if he's really developed a fourth pitch, if he's going to use his, and I know we've heard this before with him, if he's going to use his off speed more, that's more of what I'm interested in seeing here. And then even within that, Joe Girardi made the point today that there was a fifth starter competition going on in spring training. I guess there's a fifth starter competition going on now, but with the virus and with the unpredictability of rosters and with the expanded roster at the start, you're going to need as many pitchers as possible. So you're going to have more than just 5 stretched out. And, I think that right now it's just about keeping them healthy, stretching them out as far as they can, and sort of seeing how everybody sort of fits in the grand scheme of things rather than honing in on, I have a hard time like looking at, it's a fifth starter competition because you're going to need 6, 7, 8, 9 this year more than ever before.
Bryce Harper is very vocal about JT Realmuto's contract, whether it's wearing the T-shirt or yelling to sign him after he hits a home run. Do you think the front office is annoyed by this at all?
I don't know. I doubt it. Harper was saying years ago before they were teammates that Realmuto was his favorite player. There was an All-Star game. I guess it was the year the All-Star game was in Washington, the year before Harper was a Philly, so it would have been 2018, where they took a team photo and Harper put his Nats hat on Realmuto's head. And, if you remember, I think it was July of 18, the Marlins were not very good. Realmuto was, is he going to get traded at the deadline? Ultimately, he didn't. But, there was talk of that, and people were like, well, there's Harper stumping for, the Nats to trade for him. So, this has been a Harper thing for years now that he considers Realmuto his favorite player. He's kind of infatuated with him as a player. And Realmuto said today that, he thinks a lot of it's in good fun, and he's flattered by it, that Harper would think that way about him and all of that. So I think probably the front office views it the same way. Harper's also going to be here for 12 more years. So, I mean, Realmuto is not the last guy that I'm sure that he's going to weigh in and say, I want to get that guy. It was probably way more annoying to them, to be honest with you, last year after he signed, when he was talking about getting Mike Trout, who was not available at that time. And they were probably like, look, Bryce, tone it down. I think this is a little bit different. I think they'd be worried. Quite frankly, I think they'd be worried if he wasn't excited about wanting to have this guy on his team.
We're talking with Scott Lauber from the Philadelphia Inquirer. The Phillies have an inter-squad game today. Now, on, what was that, Monday or Tuesday, Matt Klentak spoke, and, he kind of gave an update on some of the guys. Kingery, interesting. Do we think that Kingery will be ready to go? His status seems to be kind of up in the air. I mean, he said that he's fine and kind of past the COVID, but is there any sign of when he could be back?
No, there isn't. And, I think it's good that he feels better and that he thinks he's past the virus. Now he's got to pass the protocols and get himself here. And they've got to figure out where he's at in terms of being ready to go on day one. So I don't really have a firm grasp of that yet. It's still 16 days, 15 days until opening day. So, again, the good thing is you've got an expanded roster right out of the gate. You have several. It looks like Gene Segura, no matter what, is going to play third base. So if Kingery's not ready, it doesn't sound like they're going to slide Segura over to second. You have some other options there. Josh Harrison's a guy who's played a lot of second base in his career. Logan Forsythe has played a lot of second base in his career. I think Neil Walker can even play second base. So, you've got options if you want to keep one of those guys and have them be the guy on opening day. And, Kingery wouldn't be too far behind, I wouldn't imagine, at that point.
Do you sense that players will wear masks on the field?
Well, several are already doing it. Didi Gregorius has been wearing one both at the plate and in the field. I believe the grand slam he hit yesterday, he had the mask on. I think he hit with the mask on today. He's been wearing it defensively. Segura's been wearing one. And, of course, Rhys Hoskins said yesterday that he hadn't really thought too much about it until he got here. And now he's thinking of at least keeping one in a plastic bag in his back pocket so that maybe when he holds a runner on first, he can put it on and wouldn't feel like he's at as much risk being in such close proximity to the runner. So it will not surprise me in the least if the guy, especially the guys who are already wearing one, will continue to do so, and guys who start to see other guys wear one might try it out. Realmuto, for what it's worth today, said he won't wear one. He's tried it. It's just doesn't feel like it's comfortable while he's playing. So he's going to. He's got his catcher's mask anyway, so you'd imagine it would be extra hot underneath there if you were to try to wear one. So it's going to work for some guys, for others it's not. And I think the fact that we're already seeing guys wear them in these scrimmages means that they're leaning toward doing so when the games count.
All right, I know Alec Boehm's name comes up a lot. They do have a DH this year, and it doesn't make the Phillies' decision any easier when he's smacking balls off the left field wall out there. But he's a guy that I guess is probably making them make a tough decision because we know the service time thing is really under consideration.
Yeah, and about the best you can get. At this point, at least, still 2 weeks out from Joe Girardi is, he's going to impact the Phillies at some point this season. He feels like Alec Boehm will impact the team or will help the team at some point this season. So they're going to have to make that call. Does he help them win a game in the first week? The schedule, we've talked about how the schedule is difficult anyway, and 4 of the first 7 games are against the Yankees. So, that's going to make it extra tough. I also think that, 4 of the first 7 are against the Yankees, and I believe 5 of the first 10 or something are on the road. I mean, it's going to be challenging out of the gate. So I've told you guys where I stand on this. If I'm a general manager and I've publicly stated that it's time to win, I think those were Matt Klentak's exact words back in October. I want the best team I've got breaking camp. And it's not to minimize the service time aspect of it. You want to control a player like that for as long as you possibly can. And if delaying his arrival by 7 days allows you to do that, there's going to be a compelling argument to delay. But if I'm a general manager who's, said the time is now to win, it's going to be awfully tempting to take that guy from day one if you feel like he can help you.
Yeah, I definitely lean towards the time or the opinion of let's keep him in control for as long as possible. I just seem like the reactionary thing is, all right, let's get him on this team. Let's see what he has. But
right.
Don't you think the really logical way to approach this is, okay, you bite the bullet early on, you find a way to kind of just get by, and then once you can bring him up and keep him under control, you do?
It's hard to it's like, how valuable are they taking this season? Are they thinking like, hey, this is such an important thing for us to win a World Series to give up a guy? You know what I mean? Like, how much stock are they putting? Because a week of games in this scenario is a lot different than the service time problems you have in a 162.
As I said, I don't think. I mean, it's certainly reasonable to say that. Delay his arrival by a week, and you keep him, you keep your 6 full years of control, and off you go. But I mean, look, we were just talking about Scott Kingery and whether he'll be ready for opening day. Maybe there's a way that Alec Boehm can help you in the first week of the season. Maybe his impact could be greater than you had planned if you were 100% healthy with your regular guys. I don't know. Yeah. If he was on the team from day one and he hit 2 home runs in the first week and you go 5-2 and you wind up making the playoffs, what if you don't have him and, you go 3-4 and you end up missing the playoffs by a game? Who knows? So this is all part of the calculus. And I think the fact that it's such a short season, I think is only going to make it more complicated.
All right. Let's get your take on the center field situation. Is it a platoon? Is there a guy that you lean towards over the other? How do you read that center field? I know it's only been a couple of days.
I think it's wide open. I think Girardi's open to a lot of possibilities. He's open to a timeshare between Roman Quinn and Adam Hazley. He's open to one guy grabbing the job and running with it. So, I do think in that particular competition, I do think these intra-squads matter a little bit. I do think the at-bats will matter a little bit, and maybe what they do in those exhibition games. Quinn has looked really good so far. I mean, they're intra-squad games, and they're weird and all of that, but he's been on base a lot. He's looks good. He's running around well. I mean, we've seen it in short spurts between injuries, what Roman Quinn can do and how much he can mean to a team. And now you don't have a DH, and so you've got a number 9 hitter, and a guy like him profiles really well in that spot, sort of like a second leadoff guy. You hear American League teams talk about that all the time. There's a lot to like about him, and we just haven't seen Hazley much on the field yet because he was here. He was delayed a few days with that lost lab result. He's expected to be on the field, I believe, in an intra-squad tomorrow, weather permitting. So, he'll get his chance. But Quinn looks awfully good so far, and in a short season like this, again, it'd be interesting to see what he could do if you could sort of cut him loose a little bit and let him play, a number of games in a row. I think they're open to that if they feel like he earns that over the next couple of weeks.
Going back to Boehm real quick, do you think he's definitely ready at the plate? Like, is it a no-brainer when you watch him at the plate that he's going to be able to be a factor when it comes to hitting this year?
I don't know for sure. I mean, he looks awfully good. He uses the whole field. Yesterday we saw him hit a double to left field. Today we saw him take the ball the other way to right field so it all looks good, But again, I mean, you can only tell so much in this setting and in this environment. So, my untrained eye, I'm not a scout, but, he looks like a major league hitter. So we'll see. And then, again, you're dealing with And I know I sound like I'm saying put him on the roster from day one, and maybe I am saying that. I think in a normal season, if you're going to take the time and send him to AAA and have him stay down there for a few weeks until the service time thing no longer is a factor, at least he'd be playing in AAA games, right? And he'd be getting at bats there. Here you could come out of this 3-week training camp, send him to Lehigh Valley. He's going to do what? Playing a couple of intra-squad games, for the first week and figure out ways to keep his timing at the plate. So, I mean, that may be a consideration as well. Do we want this guy essentially sitting around for a week? If he finishes camp on a high note and looks good at the plate, do you really want to slow him down? So all of those things come into play as factors here for what they might or might not do.
All right, Scott Lauber, follow him there on Twitter, at Scott Lauber from the Philadelphia Inquirer, as the Phillies continue summer camp, counting down to opening day, and we'll have plenty more on the Phillies as they get ready here from Citizens Bank Park. Scott, we always appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Sure, guys. Thanks for having me.
And he, like August, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline.